To the spring edition of our quarterly stakeholder meeting, the Water Quality Advisory Work Group meeting that the Water Quality Division of the TCQ puts on. Thank you for being here, both in person to those who are watching online. Appreciate your participation. For those who are watching online, if you haven't done so already, you can register your attendance for this meeting by sending an email to our outreach email box, which is outreach@tcq.texas.gov. If you just put the acronym or abbreviation of our meeting, the WQAWG initials in the subject line, and just add your contact information to the body of the email, and just send that on. We'll take care of the rest. And if you're not already on the email or the stakeholder group list or email list, you can request to be added to that as well with your email. We've got a bunch of updates for you today to provide, and before we get into it, just a couple of housekeeping things. After each item is presented, we'll pause and ask for any questions that you might have on that topic. For those here in person, unfortunately, to ask your question, you'll need to come up to the podium and use the mic there to ask the question. And of course, mainly the reason for that is so that those online can hear what the question is, and we'll obviously do our best to answer whatever you ask. And then if you think of something later after a topic is presented, that's fine too. We've got a question and answer segment scheduled into near the end of the meeting, so you can ask additional questions at that time. For those who are online, you can just send your questions to us through that same outreach email address, outreach@tcq.texas.gov, and we'll take care of them as they come in. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Greg Easley. I am manager of the Water Quality Assessment section here in the Water Quality Division, and we'll go around the table here and introduce the rest of those of us from TCQ that'll be presenting here in just a second. Since we've got the microphone at the podium, we won't go through everyone in the audience like we normally do, since that would take a little bit more time than normal, but that's okay. We've got y'all registered for the meeting already. So, and the other thing, only other thing I wanted to mention, and it's just a reminder, it's at the bottom of your agenda, which hopefully y'all all got a copy of. The meeting is being recorded and will be available to view on our TCQ YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and check something later on, or tell a friend or colleague to check out the meeting, you can direct them there and find the meeting recording after today. So that being said, let's go ahead and do our introductions up here, and then we'll get started with the agenda. So let's start over here to my left with Michaela.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michaela Coleman. I am a permit writer with the Stormwater team here in the Water Quality Division.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dante Fichetti. I'm also a permit writer on the Stormwater team in the Water Quality Division.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alyssa Loveday, and I am an environmental permit specialist on the industrial wastewater permitting team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Alaji. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joy Alabi. I'm with the land application team of the Water Quality Assessment section of the Water Quality Division.
Good afternoon. My name is Louis Herron. I'm with the Plans and Specs, Water Reuse, and Homeland Security team.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Villalba, and I am the team leader for the Stormwater team in the Water Quality Division.
Hello, my name is Danielle Monroe. I work with the Customer Information and Assistance team in the Water Quality Division.
All right, thanks everyone. So we'll jump into our agenda items, and first off, I'll hand it back over to Michaela for a couple of permitting process updates.
Thank you, Greg. So I have some updates on our compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act efforts. In case any of you haven't attended the meeting before, I'll give a little bit more background that we've mentioned in previous meetings. So a lot of the agency's Title VI efforts are related to an informal resolution agreement that we made with EPA in response to some complaints filed against TCEQ. The complaints allege that there was discrimination against individuals with limited English proficiency in the administration of our permitting and public engagement programs, which would be considered a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is why we're kind of terming all of this our Title VI efforts. So as a result of that informal resolution with EPA, in order to meet the requirements of Title VI, TCEQ has done several things. First, we've published TCEQ's public participation plan. If you're interested in reading that, you can find it on our web pages by searching for GI-607. We also published our language access plan, which can be found online by searching GI-608. And finally, we revised some of the public notice requirements in Title 30 of the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 39. So these new plans and rule updates impact our water quality permit applications in a few ways. So applicants that were administratively complete on or after May 1st of last year, 2022, that are subject to public notice requirements in Chapter 39 now need to provide a plain language summary of their application and then translate this summary into alternative languages if those alternative language notice requirements apply to them. And we have heard recently that there may be some functionality issues with the Spanish template we've provided in our application, so we're working on correcting those and uploading new versions of that for everyone. Additionally, applicants with alternative language notice requirements have to provide TCEQ with translated copies of each public notice, and if there's a failure to provide those translated notice documents, that can delay the permitting process. We do offer Spanish notice templates of both the first notice and the second notice on our website. TCEQ is posting these alternative language notices and plain language summaries on our public webpage, in addition to any newspaper publications that applicants complete. And these are available on the webpage titled Pending Permit Application Information, Water Quality Permits. Applicants with alternative language requirements must publish those alternative language notices of any public meetings, and they may also be required to provide interpretation services at certain public meetings. The public participation plan published by TCEQ identifies the use of preliminary screening and public involvement plans to ensure that there's meaningful public outreach. So as part of that, there's an agency-wide form for all applicants to develop their public involvement plan. This is TCEQ Form 20960. So this is a form that's required to be a part of an application package for any new permit applicants or major amendment applicants. And that's for any applications received on or after November 1st of last year. And those forms are integrated into each of the applications. Other new developments at the TCEQ Environmental Trade Fair and Conference will offer a presentation on the agency's Title VI efforts in a little bit more detail. So that's going to be offered on the first day of the conference, May 16th. It's going to cover some of that informal resolution agreement, the Chapter 39 requirements, that public involvement plan form, and a few other items. So if you're interested in that, more information is available on our Trade Fair and Conference website. And that is all I have for the Title VI compliance updates. Any questions? Okay, I'll pass it back to Greg.
Thank you, Michaela. Next up, we've got some program-specific updates. I think we're going to have to skip the Homeland Security update because I don't see the presenter at the time being, but maybe she might be able to join us here before we close and get that update to you. If not, we can certainly send you that update via email once the meeting's over. So anyway, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Alyssa.
Thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Alyssa Loveday, and I'll be providing the Oil and Gas General Permit update. As background information on the Oil and Gas General Permitting Program, TCEQ was transferred permitting authority for discharges into surface water in the state for gas plants and oil and gas extraction facilities by House Bill 2771 during the 86th legislative session in 2019. TCEQ obtained TIPD's authorization from EPA effective January 15th, 2021 via a revised memorandum of agreement. TCEQ did not obtain authority for the disposal of wastewater for oil and gas activities via land application, and this authority remains under the Texas Railroad Commission. The general permit for hydrostatic discharges, or TXG 67, was amended and reissued to include crude oil and natural gas hydrostatic test discharges. New crude oil, natural gas pipelines, and vessels are automatically authorized under TXG 67, provided the general permit has been read and the terms and conditions are complied with, so that means that there's no requirement for a notice of intent to be submitted. Existing crude oil, natural gas pipelines, and vessels that contain crude oil or raw natural gas products can now file for an administrative notice of intent electronically and will get immediate authorization. TCEQ has now drafted and developed 2 general permits for oil and gas extraction facilities discharges into surface waters of the state. This includes TXG 31 under the Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, as well as WQG 28 under state-only authority. TXG 31 will replace EPA's general permits TXG 26 and TXG 33, as well as individual Railroad Commission authorizations. WQG 28 will replace individual Railroad Commission permit authorizations. The TXG 31 general permit for onshore stripper well facilities, coastal facilities, and territorial sea facilities in the Gulf of Mexico within 3 miles of the Texas coastline combines and replaces EPA's general permits TXG 26 and TXG 33, both of which were administratively continued. TCEQ shared the draft TXG 31 general permit with stakeholders for review and comment, in which TCEQ reviewed all comments received. The draft general permit was then submitted to EPA Region 6 for a 90-day review on August 2nd, 2022. EPA completed its review on November 14th, 2022, in which TCEQ received no objections and only minor suggestions. EPA then approved TCEQ for issuance of the general permit. As of today, statewide public notice in the Texas Register and statewide circulation in newspapers is projected to occur in May 2023, with a formal 30-day public comment period from May to June of 2023. The anticipated commission adoption date of the general permit is expected in November of 2023, and development of TXG 31's notice of intent, notice of change, and notice of termination forms have all been completed. Moving on to the WQG 28 general permit for the Outer Continental Shelf facilities in the Gulf of Mexico. This TCEQ state-only general permit will propose to authorize discharges to surface waters in the Gulf of Mexico and only covers between 3 and 10.2 statute miles of the Texas coastline. We would like to emphasize that the WQG 28 general permit only covers between 3 and 10.2 statute miles of the Texas coastline. Beyond 10.2 miles, Texas does not have regulatory authority, and authorization is only required by EPA. In the 3 to 10.2 statute mile jurisdiction, separate authorization is continued to be required from EPA under the GMG 29 general permit. WQG 28 general permit has been drafted and developed in coordination with EPA's Region 6 renewal of their equivalent general permit, which is GMG 29. The WQG 28 general permit was released for stakeholder input in December 2022 via the Water Quality Advisory Work Group. The 30-day public notice is expected in May 2023. Public comment will be from May to June of 2023, and it's expected to go before the Commission for consideration of issuance in November of 2023. As well as all of the notice of intent, notice of completion, and notice of termination forms have been completed for the general permit. As of today, we have 42 issued authorizations under the general permit for hydrostatic test discharges, or TXG 67, as well as 4 issued individual oil and gas TIPDs permits and 18 pending individual oil and gas TIPDs permit applications. Lastly, if anyone is looking to learn more about the oil and gas general permits, Mr. Chris Linendahl will be performing a detailed presentation on the oil and gas general permitting program on May 16th at the Environmental Trades Fair located at the Convention Center in downtown Austin, Texas. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Come up to the mic.
Yeah, hi, Jamie. Don't have mics to pass around, so you'll need to come up to the podium to ask your question. Thank you. I'm sorry, Jamie, is the microphone on there?
Hi, can you hear me? About the individual permit, the applications, I know that there's a different application for the oil and gas facilities versus just the industrial facilities. When you have an issued oil and gas facility permit already, do we still use the same application for the oil and gas facilities? I know like just at the very first, it's got like references the Railroad Commission permit and the NIPD's permit. Is that what we're still supposed to use if we're coming in for another amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Alyssa? All right. Thank you, Alyssa. Oh, sorry. Did you see? Someone have a question on? Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Next up, we've got a bunch of general permit updates to give to you, and we will start off with Joy.
Once again, good afternoon. My name is Joy Alabi. I'm with the CAFO program of the TCEQ. I'm here to present an update on the renewal of the CAFO General Permit, TXG 920000. This permit authorizes the discharge of manure, sludge, and wastewater into or adjacent to water in the state by concentrated animal feeding operations. The draft permit, which is under development, will replace the current permit, which expires on July 20th, 2024. The proposed changes to the renewal, they are minor. One of them is to address the requirement of the addition of a digester that are installed in a CAFO production area to recover methane gas from dairy manure and processed wastewater. And the second change is a proposal to reduce the annual water quality fee for state-only CAFOs to $300. The current amount is $800 for all facilities that are authorized under the CAFO GP. The timeline for this renewal, we have a stakeholder involvement. We will be contacting members of the CAFO stakeholder group at some point early in the process to provide details on the proposed draft and to solicit feedback. And then we have a draft permit to EPA for 90-day review sometime in August 2023. Public notice will be in February of 2024. Public comment period will be from February to March 2024. And we're going to have a public meeting. The date will be announced in the public notice. It's going to be on the last day of the public comment period. And then all the GPs, people that are currently authorized under the permit, they will have 90 days from July 20th, 2024 to submit their NOI to be reauthorized under the permit. So that's all the updates that I have, and I'm available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Any questions about the CAFO general permit reissuance? All right. Next up, we've got Michaela.
Thank you, Greg. So I have some updates on our construction general permit, or the TXR 150,000. This is the general permit that regulates stormwater discharges from construction activities. And since we last updated the advisory work group, we brought this renewal permit package before the commission for adoption at the agenda meeting on February 22nd, 2023. And we issued the permit with an effective date of March 5th, 2023. So any existing permittees with ongoing construction activities will need to submit a renewal permit application in our online e-permitting system called STEERS by June 5th of 2023 to continue their existing authorization. We have started mailing out renewal reminder postcards to those existing permittees with an active authorization. So there's over 32,000 being mailed out as we speak. The 2023 construction general permit, the fact sheet, and the executive director's response to comments are available on our website. Specifically, you'll find them easily on the main construction stormwater webpage, which is the tcq.texas.gov/permitting/stormwater/construction. Some of the major changes included in this renewal permit are that construction site operators must evaluate and observe controls during each day of dewatering discharges, and then prepare and document in a report the results of that observation and evaluation. Operators are required to implement good housekeeping measures related to waste cleanup at the site and minimizing any sanitary waste by making sure portable toilets are in a secure location away from surface waters and stormwater inlets. We also included that inspections may be suspended during adverse conditions, with a requirement to document those adverse conditions that are present at the site. We also have a requirement for delegation of signatory forms for large construction site operators to be submitted electronically in our STEER system. So those are just a snapshot of some of the major changes. For a complete list of all of the changes included in this renewal, you can refer to pages 13 through 16 of our fact sheet. Also new this permit cycle, we have official construction site notice forms with an official TCQ form number. So the large construction site notice for primary operators is going to be form number 20961. The large construction site notice for secondary operators is going to be 20962. The small construction site notice will be form number 20963. And then the small construction site notice for those sites with low potential for erosion coverage can use TCQ form 20964. Finally, we wanted to let everybody know that the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, or the SWIP template, for this updated permit is being finalized by our Small Business and Local Government Assistance Program. Just making sure that all of the 2023 updates are reflected in the template. It should be available very soon, so keep an eye on the web pages for that to be released. Any questions about our construction general permit renewal?
Is this on? Okay, awesome. Mark Keeley, City of Waco Watershed. With the new approval of electronic SWIPs, is there going to be any guidelines coming from TCEQ on what is acceptable versus not acceptable versus the language that's in the CGP? Our municipality is working on guidelines as a phase one, but seeing what y'all have.
Yeah, so we received a lot of feedback from stakeholders in the regulated community about wanting the explicit permission to have electronic SWIPs. And it seemed to be the consensus of our investigators that most of them review electronic SWIPs whenever they visit sites. So we did say that an electronic SWIP kept in a format that is readily available and still, legally valid can be presented and accepted by our investigators when they visit a site. We do just want to caution the regulated community that signatures required as part of the SWIP still have to be in wet ink, according to the state rules. So it's important that once a SWIP is turned over to TCEQ, that is a legal valid signature in wet ink.
Okay, good thing to add. Thank you. And then with your outreach on large construction sites that are to be default if they don't start by was it June 5th, I believe. Is there any coordination with the municipalities that y'all need, or?
Not that I can think of. Of course, if you're aware of any ongoing sites and you wanted to help spread the word.
We're doing a lot of outreach ourselves, but I didn't know if there was
Yeah.
something that y'all were, okay. Awesome. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank y'all.
Anyone else? Okay, back to Greg.
Thank you, Michaela. Next up, we've got Dante with a John Gray's general permit update.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Greg. As introduced, my name is Dante Fichetti, and we have another stormwater general permit update for you all. So this is the John Graves Scenic Riverway general permit. The general permit number for this is TXG 500,000, and we're currently in the process of the 2024 renewal. So just a brief overview. This general permit regulates stormwater and wastewater discharges from quarries within the John Graves Scenic Riverway portion of the Brazos River Basin, and is set to expire on March 28th of 2024. TCQ has started the renewal process for this general permit and is currently drafting the general permit. We completed some internal stakeholder and collected feedback from the existing permittees, and this was completed in early 2023. Our next step is sending the draft permit package to EPA for their review, and we expect this to be completed in the summer of 2023, so coming up. Some of the proposed preliminary changes include addressing the end of the pilot program, if not renewed by the state legislature prior to September 1st of 2025, updating allowable non-stormwater discharges to be consistent with other stormwater general permits, and lastly, increasing inspections from weekly to daily on discharges from dewatering activities, and this is to be consistent with the 2023 construction general permit, which was just issued. After EPA approval, we expect to publish the proposed permit in the fall of 2023 for a 30-day public comment period. And that's it for the John Graves. Are there any questions? Okay, back to Greg.
Thank you, Dante. Next up, Rebecca is going to give several general permit updates. I will note that the last two, the oil and gas permits that are mentioned there in the agenda, she won't cover that information again. Kindly, Alyssa provided some information on those, so she won't need to repeat it. So over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Again, Rebecca Villalba, so I will give you an update on the small, otherwise known as the Phase 2 MS4 general permit. That's Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems Permit, TXR 040,000, regarding the 2024 renewal. So the general permit regulates stormwater discharges from small or Phase 2 MS4s, and it expires January 24 of 2024. The renewal process started last year in May. We had a stakeholder meeting in September, and stakeholders had 2 weeks to review the preliminary proposed changes and submit informal comments not only on the existing permit but also on our proposed changes. And those were due 2 weeks after the September 27 meeting. We received comments from about 50 individuals that were very productive. We had a meeting here, and we had some really good discussion as well. The meeting handouts and recording of the meeting are available online on our Stormwater Stakeholder Group webpage, and you will find the link to that when you receive the minutes from this meeting. At that meeting, we presented not only the preliminary proposed changes, but also some actual real language for people to see, since we are moving the permit into a different direction. So the first thing is that we're moving the permit from what we know as the two-step permit approach to a comprehensive permitting approach. And these terms are from the 2017 MPDS MS4 remand rule. And so right now we are doing the Texas two-step, that's our general permit. And I'm sad that I won't be able to say that anymore, but I'm glad that we're moving to a different direction, which is going to be a good thing for everybody, both permittees, for us, for the public. So the master general permit will now be prescriptive and include all the requirements the MS4 operators must implement, and therefore there will be no need for the MS4 operators to submit an individual stormwater management program to us, TCQ, for review and approval, and they will not need to publish the public notice in the newspaper. So the application process will become a simple notice of intent that will be administratively reviewed electronically. So the proposed permit language for the best management practices and measurable goals under the minimum control measures was also shared with the stakeholders so they could see how the prescriptive permit will look like. In addition, the other changes that we're making to the permit are regarding the implementation of the electronic reporting for both applications and the annual reports. TCQ is going to use EPA's national system for the MS4 program called NET MS4. So we're going to be start working with EPA later on this year to customize the NET MS4 system to fit our permit needs. So because we are moving to the electronic reporting that we require for general permits to be electronically in a couple of years, we had to revise the annual reporting year options. So currently we allow 3 options in the general permit. Now we have to move to only allow 1 reporting year schedule, and that's so that we can fit into that electronic system. We are going to now only allow the calendar year. So all MS4s will have a calendar year. That's going to be the reporting option, since this is the most common option that was used by the permittees based on our records in the database. Also, due to the electronic reporting system, we had to revise our minimum control measures. So currently we have, if you look at the federal regulations, they go 1 through 6. 1 and 2 in the federal regulations were combined in our general permit as 1, MCM1. So we have now had to split them up so that we can fit in the system for national consistency. So across the nation, everybody has to have MCM1 is going to be the public education and outreach, and MCM2 is going to be public involvement and participation. So therefore, the remaining MCMs have to be renumbered as MCMs 3 to 8. So it's not that we added an MCM or minimum control measure, it's just they got the first one got split up so that now MCMs 1 through 6 match the federal regulations. And then the other 2 MCMs are specific, unique to Texas. So we prepared that initial draft permit based on input and feedback from stakeholders and from internal program areas. And when we went through internal review, we also identified that there were some other miscellaneous and editorial changes that we needed to make to the general permit. And we hope that those make the permit now more or easier to read. So we removed some redundant information that was repeated in a couple of places. We improved the readability, and we consolidated similar information where appropriate. So you will see that it looks a little different, but it's just that we consolidated and moved things around a little bit to make it easier to read and follow. So it was a lot of work getting there, moving a permit from one type to a different type. But we feel that we have a really good draft permit. Thank you for everybody's feedback. And we successfully submitted the permit to EPA on March 22nd for their 90-day review. So right now it is with EPA. They're reviewing it. We're hoping to hear back from them before the 90 days, but not sure. So on worst case scenario, that they have their 90 days and they give us comments and we address them. Right now, we anticipate publishing the draft permit for public comment in the fall of this year. And then, of course, we anticipate still going to Commissioner's agenda on January 24 to issue the permit for January 24, 2024. Any questions on the MS4 general permit? Okay. All right, so moving on to the next general permit update. So we'll give you an update on the livestock manure compost general permit, WQG 200000. This permit authorizes the disposal of wastewater generated from livestock manure compost operations by evaporation or beneficial use by irrigation. The TCQ currently is proposing to renew this general permit. The current permit expires on November 10th of this year. The public notice was already published in the Houston Chronicle on March 31st and in the Texas Register on April 7th. So right now it is in the comment period. Once we receive comments, we will address them, revise the permit as needed, and we anticipate taking this general permit to Commissioner's agenda for adoption on August of this year. Any questions on the livestock permit? Okay, the next general permit update. This is regarding the petroleum contaminated waste general permit, TXG 830000. This general permit authorizes stormwater discharges of water contaminated by petroleum substances into or adjacent into waters of the state. TCQ is currently proposing to renew and amend the general permit. The current permit expires on September 12th of this year. The draft general permit and fact sheet were sent to EPA for their 90-day review on October 5th of last year, and EPA approved it on December 15th. We didn't have any major comments from EPA. The public notice was published in the Houston Chronicle on March 31st and in the Texas Register on April 7th. So this permit is also in the public comment period at this stage. We anticipate, once we get comments, addressing them as appropriate and revising the permit and moving it on to the commissioner's agenda for adoption in August of this year. So these two, the livestock and the petroleum general permit, are moving at the same rate. The next two updates that are on the agenda, the oil and gas, Lisa already gave those updates. I just want to add one more item regarding the oil and gas outer continental shelf general permit, WQG 280000. This permit, when it goes out to public comment, we are also specifically seeking comments and input on the potential to reduce permitted produced wastewater flows from 7,000 barrels per day to 6,000 barrels per day, which may result in the increase in or removal of certain water quality-based effluent limitations, but overall reducing the mass loading of pollutants from produced wastewater discharges, as well as establishing compliance schedules for whole effluent toxicity or wet limitations. So please keep that in mind, that we really are seeking input on this. So whenever the permit is out for the comment period, provide us any comments on that or feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions for her? Okay. Last topic on the agenda, rule updates, and I will hand it over to Louis to give his, and the mic.
Good afternoon. First thing I want to tell you is we've had 4 stakeholder meetings on Chapter 217. Unfortunately, the participation has been poor. I will tell you, I've been working on 217 or 317 since I've worked here in the last 40 years, and this is the smallest amount of comments that we received. But to let you know, on yesterday we finished our 4th stakeholder meeting, and we had 1 person in the audience. And I don't know how many we had online. But we are still taking comments. We are going to have a discussion, an all-day discussion on June 5th. It's either going to be in this room or it's going to be over in Building F in 2210. We will be going over all the changes that's been proposed and has been recommended to be proposed to us. We are also on May 16th, the first day of the trade fair. We will be putting on a presentation on some of the major changes that we are proposing. But we are looking for comments, and if you have any comments, please send it to us. Send it to the outreach box and put 217 on the subject line, and they'll come to us. But we're trying to make some changes. We are making some major changes to the design criteria on nutrients. We are adding the drip systems to the design criteria. We're adding subchapter I. And we're making some minor changes throughout the rules. And hopefully we get some good comments, because after the June 5th meeting, we will be setting it up for a final discussion and proposal. Thank you.
Any questions for Louis? Okay. Only 40 years, Louis? That's not very long.
I've been with the state 43 years.
Okay. Well, that's long. All right. And last rule update will be given by Rebecca.
Okay. This last rule update is for 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 210. So we are currently, we already updated Chapter 210, which is the use of reclaimed water. Specifically, language was added to the existing rule at 210.5 or 210.5, that's the section, to clarify that an application to obtain an authorization under Chapter 210 may be submitted concurrently or at any time after submittal of an application for a TPDS or a TLAP permit. This clarifies the timing of the application for efficient processing and is an incentive to promote reuse of reclaimed water. The commission adopted this rulemaking at the commissioners' agenda meeting on February 8th of 2023. So this rule is now revised and effective. Thank you.
Questions on 210, Chapter 210? Okay, well, we've gone through all our update items that we wanted to cover. Now's time to ask any other questions you may have thought of on any of these topics. Anyone have any? Any online, Danielle? Okay. Well, then I will just pass on one last announcement about our next meeting, which will be on Tuesday, July 25th at 1:30, same place. And as always, we'll send out an agenda a little ahead of time so you know what we'll be talking about. And like I mentioned earlier, apologize we weren't able to give the Homeland Security update, but we will send out an email with that update information once we're able to. And with that, I believe we are all done. So thanks again for coming out this afternoon, and for those who are participating online, we appreciate it as always, and I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you.